Let me help you understand how K-pop works. I made this concept. I brought this concept from wrestling and now I'm translating it into K-pop because this is something us as fans, as neutral fans, need to know to understand how K-pop works. This is what I call the K-pop stage card. I brought this term from wrestling, as I told you, and what the card means is low card, mid card, upper card, main event. The higher the card you are, the more money, the more recognition, the more popular you are. There are wrestlers that are built to be main eventers, but there are others that cannot pass mid card. And now, translating it into K-pop, I brought a few stages for us to understand how K-pop works. The K-pop stage card is not a ranking, is not who's best, who's more talented, who got more views. No. This is about the industry infrastructure, not a ranking. This K-pop stage, what it measures is infrastructure plus the reach plus the ceiling. All those three elements combined let us understand what's the position of K-pop groups on the card. Most K-pop groups will die where they debut. That's one of the things. They probably move one or at most two stages and they will probably stay there, fluctuate between them. And being on a low stage doesn't mean it's a bad career, doesn't mean they are not talented. It just means that they didn't have the path, they didn't have the resources to go higher. Now let's head straight into stages. Practice room stage. I call this practice room stage because it's pre-debut. For example, survival shows, they are on the practice room stage. An example that comes to my mind that is very clear is NMIX. NMIX did a ton of stuff pre-debut. They did a ton of stuff pre-debut and that's where they were headed, on practice room stage. This is only to track new forming groups, new groups, probably groups that come from survival shows. That is what practice room is made for. The next, we got the university stages. Those are K-pop groups that are performing on small venues. They slowly begin rising, getting small fandom, heading somewhere, but they are still fragile. A little bit that changes probably will end up in disbandment. For example, most K-pop groups that debuted between 2019 and 2021, if they were not from a middle to big company, they disbanded. Because they couldn't stand what the pandemic did to them. They had no way to survive. Next, we got the showcase stage. This showcase stage is most of the groups that fit in here are niche groups with small but loyal fandoms. That is like the best definition I could give you for showcase stage. For example, Elite. They are slowly forming their small fanbase, but the fanbase is loyal. It's clear that they got a fanbase. More examples, HYBE was a small niche group with the sexy concept that they had their own loyal fanbase that later projected into higher stage. But they were good groups, they got their small but loyal fanbase. Now we are heading somewhere. The festival stage. This is where most middle company groups will be. And this is where most big company groups will debut. In festival stage, there are K-pop groups that are recognizable. They got their own strong fandom, but probably their company cannot push them more. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the resources, the logistics to project them onto something higher. For example, groups like Monsta X, G-Idol, Mamamoo, probably G-Idol, when they disband, will fit into this category. But these are groups that did what they could. They projected their company, they have their strong fandom, they had a great career, but they cannot be world-like level. They can't. They don't got the resources for it, but they are known. You listen to their name, you know, yeah, they got this song or maybe this song. You have heard one or two songs from them. They got their clear identity, but they are capped by the structure. They hit their ceiling. Now we get into the bigger stages. There is this stage that I call the upper card, also known as arena stage. The arena stage are K-pop groups that got their reliable, huge fandom, and they also got a strong touring power. A strong touring power, I mean that they can actually go outside of Korea constantly. Because the groups I mentioned in festival stages, it was very rare for them to leave Korea. They did not have a ton of world tours. They maybe had even one in their whole career. But the groups that are constant in arena stage, they are groups that can make global touring. They can go to the US, to Europe, to Latam, everywhere. And they are the rank 3 to 10 from the generation. Groups that fit into this stage, for example, currently, TXT, Ateez, HYBE, G-Idol, Le Sserafim, Red Velvet from the past, they were arena stage. And lastly, we got the world-like stage. This stage is only for 2 boy groups and 2 girl groups. The most defining, they defined eras. These groups define everything for the next gen or for the ending of their gen. Back on their gen, these 2 groups were Twice, Blackpink, and the boy groups were BTS and GOT7. Currently, I got 3. There is a vacant spot. The boy groups are Stray Kids and 17. They are the ones that are defining how K-pop works right now. And the girl group is aespa. And the other spot is vacant. I'll be honest, that spot should be for new jeans, if nothing of that legal stuff had happened. But after this, 2025, new jeans won't come back at all. And there is this last stage that is Hall of Fame. We all know what a Hall of Fame is. This is saved for groups that defined how K-pop works. Not their era, they defined how K-pop works. BTS, Blackpink, Twice, Girl Generation, Big Bang, Super Junior, X1 Shiny are up there in the conversation. 21, also Red Velvet is up there in the conversation. GOT7 up there in the conversation. But this is only for groups that transcended K-pop. The rules behind it. Talent is not equal to the ceiling. Talent is something we expect them to have. Being popular doesn't mean you will remain there on that stage. And the infrastructure from the company is a multiplier. That is what will project K-pop groups into the next stage. And now I know this sounds like a little bit strange to understand because nobody talks about it. This is the first time someone talks about infrastructure in K-pop. So I'll give you a clear example. 17. Back on the era where 17 before HYBE bought Pledis, 17 were self-made, were very active, very interesting. People knew about them. They were on their festival stage, even arena stage from time to time with some hits. But Pledis had limited resources, logistic, infrastructure, money. What happens with 17 is that HYBE bought Pledis and 17 now gets access to HYBE infrastructure. The ceiling raised for 17. 17 reached their ceiling with Pledis. But the moment HYBE buys them, they get a higher ceiling. And that explains why 17 right now is that popular, is that mainstream. 17 became mainstream because HYBE bought them, bought their company. HYBE has a global infrastructure based on logistics, based on everything that 17 needed in order to reach that world stage. But if HYBE never bought them, they would probably stay at festival stage. That festival stage is they had a great career, but they had a medium ceiling, medium to high ceiling. But now with HYBE, they got a high ceiling. So they are currently on the world stage. They became a global touring machine. They got all the social media input they needed. This is the same group with the same talent, but different ceiling. And right before you all hop into the comments, but actually do hop into the comments, tell me what you think about the K-pop stage system. I'll tell you something, this is unfair. This is unfair. This is unfair for the groups, but that is how K-pop works. That is why some groups will never be world-like stage. Even though they are the most talented, they won't reach their stage because they got a low ceiling. This is unfair. We all want meritocracy to work. There is one group that made it work, and that is BTS, but we won't have someone like BTS in a long time. BTS built their company upwards and with good decision from the CEO, from all the corporatives, they made big hit HYBE. But that is the only case that exists. It won't happen again. The industry is not merit based. It's based on how far can you go, and how far can the company push you. The infrastructure won't create talent. The infrastructure decides how far can that talent go. And if it's not clear for you enough, I got a comparison. I don't like group comparisons, but aespa and Mamamoo. They are two incredibly talented groups. And very similar, even though it doesn't seem like it. But those two groups, I picked them because they are four incredibly vocal talents. aespa and Mamamoo are similar in that aspect. What happens with Mamamoo? After this video, I want you to look at Mr. Ambiguous. Mamamoo debut, or just look out Mamamoo debut on YouTube. You see the MV and you realize the situation Mamamoo was. There was only one set, $3 on production, and they were filming with a potato. Mamamoo brute forced with talent their way onto festival stage, onto arena stage. What happens with aespa? Since day one, they had global recognition. I am a MY since day one. By the ending of 2020, aespa was already known. First day of aespa Instagram, they reached 1 million followers. That is the difference. They are incredibly talented, those two groups. But the resources, the socioeconomic structure was not the same. aespa day one was already globally known. Mamamoo was globally known after brute forcing their way with pure talent onto the cards, onto festival stage. They reached arena stage on their prime and they pushed the company. They built their company. RBW was built through Mamamoo's success. Mamamoo used talent to build infrastructure for the next K-pop groups that would come. aespa used infrastructure to project their talent. That's why since day one, aespa had a high ceiling, high floor. Mamamoo began low floor with a low to medium ceiling, and they broke that ceiling, reaching a medium to high ceiling. And let's understand more what this is. This is not a ranking again. This is not a who's better, who has better song, who has more quality. This is not that. And this is also not permanent. Groups fluctuate between eras. For example, Prime Mamamoo, Prime Monsta X, Prime Got7 reached at higher stages. Prime Oh My Girl, for example, they had their hits that probably reached them to arena stage. Current examples, HYBE and G-Idol. Those two groups have a medium to high ceiling, Starship and QB, and they are currently on the arena stage. But by the end of their careers, they will probably be in festival stage after they had a great career, a very standard career, they had their fandom, big fandom, but they didn't have the infrastructure to go past it. And another example, Meow, I think it's called like that, I don't know how to say it, but I personally sell them Meow, but whatever, Meow and Baby Monster. They are two groups that are very new. Meow is currently on showcase stage, and Baby Monster is on festival stage. Why? You may be asking. Because I feel like it. Of course not. Because Meow is very new, very recent. They had a strong debut and they got 1 year of continuation. But Meow can fluctuate. But what the trend tells me is that they will probably reach festival stage by mid-2026. That is the prediction I am making. And the same goes for Baby Monster. They are currently... Baby Monster debuted on festival stage. They got a medium high floor, high ceiling, medium high floor. Baby Monster can probably take the world-like stage next to aespa. But right now, Baby Monster are still very new, and the same as Meow, they will probably reach arena stage by mid-2026. That is an example of K-pop groups that are rising. And for example, Red Velvet, the tendency is to go downwards because Red Velvet is no longer very active. Their prime was passed a few years ago. Red Velvet have the legacy, but they are not active at all. I laugh at Rebel Oops because right now with this scandal of Jungkook and Winter, the Rebel Oops fandom of Red Velvet is laughing because it means that SM will give Red Velvet a comeback. That is how Rebel Oops know what is going with their group. Red Velvet is not releasing single comeback full album episodes every 3 months, every 4 months. No, they already did that on their epoca, on their era. Red Velvet had a stable legacy, and they don't need right now to be as active as they used to be. And we reached the ending of the video. Before you click out, make sure to leave a like and comment and subscribe. If you want to understand how K-pop works more, make sure to subscribe. Because right now in the ending, this is where I'm telling you why this is useful. This system, what it does, explains why some K-pop groups are more popular, why some K-pop groups can make more stuff, why some K-pop groups have a cap, have a ceiling. This explains it. There are a ton of groups that reach their ceiling and they cannot go further, they cannot go past it, because they got the limitation of the infrastructure, logistics. World stage is only safe for the big three and HYBE because they got the resources, the logistics, the company, the infrastructure to do it. And being on festival stage, showcase stage, arena stage, it's not bad. They all can have a great career. This only analyzes where they are on their career, why they cannot reach mainstream. This explains that, because most arguments in K-pop just go to this is better, this sings better, this has better songs, better producing, all-rounder, better dancing. No, this doesn't have anything to do with it, because K-pop debates go nowhere. That is the truth with K-pop debates. This will only explain why K-pop works this way. And once you see the infrastructure, you cannot unsee it. Now you understand why some K-pop groups won't go mainstream, won't go viral, won't make it to the world stage level. If you find this video interesting, make sure to leave a like and comment what do you think about it. And make sure to subscribe so I can make more videos about how K-pop works.